Hi, welcome to the Get Ready with God podcast. My name is Julie Taylor and I'm your host, and I am not God. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I'm not even a scriptorian. I'm literally just a girl sitting in front of a microphone hoping God is real. The Get Ready with God podcast is the daily devotional podcast to help you see divinity in every day. I want to talk about hope, and you're like, oh, she's always talking about hope. I am always talking about hope. But last week, my friend reached out and we had a really great conversation around this, and I thought I would loop you guys in because it was a good combo. And she told me that to her, one of the reasons hope is hard for her is because she feels like it's naive. Like it's naive to hope. And I would add to that, she didn't say this, but I would add it almost feels like frivolous or like, oh, wow, how nice it must be to be able to hope. And I think there can also be a belief that hope signifies passiveness. And, we've been talking here about how I think hope is an action word and it has to be worked for and requires effort. So we ended up chatting and I was able to articulate some of the things that I have had a change of heart around hope because I completely resonated with what she was saying. And I think there is a version of hope that does feel that way, and a way you can participate, a relationship with the hope that does feel passive, naive, dismissive, almost silly or useless. And I think I believe in a different kind of hope, of an active hope, an action-oriented hope. And the reason that I'm so passionate about talking about this is because I believe that hope is actually the only way through this. So one of the reasons that it feels naive or silly or dismissive, I think, is because it can be kind of viewed as passive in a way where it's the antithesis to action. Like if you're real and if you are present and if you're really dedicated to creating change and solutions in our world, in our dark, cold, scary world, then it's gritty and it is work and it is dark and it is effort and thoughts and prayers and hope. It's the easy way out. And I see both sides of this. And so I want to talk a little bit about why I don't think a hopeless reality is a sustainable reality. I think this, really started to ramp up in 2020 on the internet, where and a lot of good has come from that of, like take action and advocacy and being able to face the reality of our world and to sit in those truths and to not look the other way is an important skill to develop. However, if you only live in the dark, it's not sustainable to stay there. And so to just constantly talk about how bad things are, the news cycle is so short and every single day it is awful. And I'm not suggesting that we ignore any of that. And I'm not suggesting that we dismiss any of that. But when the requirement of people to be good or to make change or to care is that you have to engage in and live in this constant dark, I think we're asking something that's impossible. And I think then action becomes performative rather than helpful. And so again, there's become this dichotomy that's formed of, are you going to be an advocate and are you going to speak out and are you going to take action and are you going to acknowledge these awful things that are going on? Or are you going to be rainbows and butterflies and thoughts and prayers and pretend like nothing's happening and do nothing and opt out because it's too uncomfortable and it's too hard and it's too scary? I don't think it's either or, but I do think both things take some courage. And so when I say that hope is the only way through, it is because hopelessness leaves you unable to carry on, unable to take action, unable to actually create solutions and change, because your soul gets so burdened with despair and so weighed down by constant negativity and dark and just hopelessness that to move through this, to be able to create solutions, you have to step outside of it. You've got to find some light, some joy, and some hope. So hope to me is not naive. It is the only path. It's the only way to keep going. And if we don't keep going, then what's the point? Then we're just stagnant. Then it stops. So then there's definitely not going to be any solutions. There's definitely not going to be any help. There's definitely not going to be any advocacy, because everyone will be so weighed down by the dark that they can't take action. They can't do anything. Hope is the only way through. So it's not naive, dismissive, and frivolous. It is actually the only way to create sustainable action through the dark. And our world is extremely dark right now. really the only rule that I have for myself in all that I create is that I don't want to create anything that allows people to borrow dissonance. I think there is a reason that we are all called to different causes. I think there's a reason that we all experience different dissonance. And I think it's because with that dissonance, we are called to create solutions and pass through, and we are called to create hope around our specific things. What's happened, though, is it's very popular to create content and narratives, and even just in conversation. It doesn't have to be an internet problem, just in real life. It is more popular to burn down the trees. It's more popular to talk about the problems. It's more popular to call out what's wrong. And that's an important first step. But a lot of us stop there. We stop at the calling out. It creates counterfeit connection where if I say something that's negative, people will jump on it really, really quick. Like, oh yeah, I hate that too. And yeah, can you believe this? And the outrage and the criticism is easy, it's fast, and it creates what feels like instant connection, validation, and virality. And so people do it more and more and more and more. But it's all counterfeit. That's counterfeit connection. And instead, when we can call out the problem, but take it one step further and think, how can I help it? Where's the hope in it? What can I do with it? That's actually going to call people to a cause, and that's going to create real connection and real hope and a real path through it and real change and sustainable change. The reason I bring all of this up is it happens a lot in the faith world. And so you will never catch me detailing item line by item line why I left religion, why it's hard for me, what I don't like about it. I have those conversations in person with people. It's not like it's a secret, but I don't want you to borrow my dissonance. I want you to sort through your own. And so if I sit here and say, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and you've never had that experience, you're suddenly tempted to pick mine up and say, yeah, she's right. That's wrong. That's wrong. And then you're borrowing my dissonance in addition to your own, and then we're all just spiraling in negativity. And I don't think it's the path. And so I work to give words to struggles. That is something that I do. That is something, I think it is a skill that I have where I can give language to things, good and bad. But my hope is that, and what I work really hard to do and have from day one, is even if I'm going to talk about postpartum depression and the unique struggles that come from it and the ways that systemically there's not support for moms, I want to do it through a lens of hope and with a sustainable solution offered as well. My good friend at her dad's funeral said it this way. She said that hope was not, fingers crossed, hope it works out. Hope was the thing that allows us to endure. And so when I talk about hope, I'm talking about creating paths through, survivability, endurance. It's raw, it's gritty. Hope is not rainbows and butterflies. It's not. It's the darkest, dirtiest fight I've ever fought in my whole life. So this kind of hope is not naive. And we have to work hard to create these paths through it, or nothing will ever change because people will burn out. The kind of hope that we're fighting for in this community here is dirty, raw, gritty. That's the hope that we're working for. We need less criticism. We need less attacking. We need less counterfeit connection. And we need more hope, truly. And that's why we're here. Join me every day as we, just kidding, that just sounded like a good intro. Anyway, let's keep trying. Let's keep hoping. Love you. Bye.